Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Ibrahim Habli. I'm the Science Director, and thanks for taking the time today to join us for this webinar, where we as a team, we're going to introduce you to Science, the UKRI AI Center for doctoral training in safe AI systems. So let me make a start and introduce you to the vision of our doctoral training center. It is to train a cohort of talented PhD students with the research expertise and skills necessary to ensure that the benefits of AI autonomous systems are realized without introducing harm as the systems and their environments evolve. And here I'm pleased to share with you photos of our first two cohorts, which are with us at the moment. And we are looking forward to introducing the third cohort, and I hope some of you will make it into that group. So as you can see from our vision, we are keen that society and economy will get the benefits of AI systems, but for that to be realized, an important thing should happen, which is that those systems need to be assured that they're safe to be introduced in the complex world we live in. So let me tell you a little bit more about the program. The center was funded primarily by the UK government, by its main research council, UKRI, as well as many partners from industry as well as policy. Overall, it's around £16 million, and it's going to last for 8 years or so, comprising 5 different cohorts. The center itself is inherently multidisciplinary. It's at least 5 different departments coming together: computer science, philosophy, law, sociology, and health sciences. And this is obviously reflected in the training itself, which is also multidisciplinary. And we'll tell you more a little bit about in a bit about the program itself. But one thing we are keen on is to maintain the remit of this program, which is cohort-based, where all our students do the bulk of their training together, and therefore most of our training courses are mandatory. We don't have any optional modules like other centers for doctoral training, and this is for many different reasons. One reason is this is a means to ensure that people come together and students learn together. Another important aspect of our center and many other centers for doctoral training, it's highly collaborative with industry as well as policy organizations. And we're very pleased that we have at least 35 external partners who help the students throughout their journey and help them with their training, including a period where students are seconded to some of those industry and policy organizations. And this is of benefit to the students immersed in real-world environments, as well as for our partners for getting the benefits of engaging with our brilliant students. For next year in particular, and this message is specific to home UK students, the government decided to trial a pilot where they have enhanced existing stipends to 35K for students who are eligible for home fee status. So for those of you who will fit that criterion, you're highly encouraged to consider doing a PhD with us, because we are one of the few centers for doctoral training selected for this pilot, which hopefully would be in the long term of benefit to all those doing a PhD, in particular here in the UK. So if I expand a little bit on a research remit of the center, and again, we'll say more about this, our research focused on the lifelong safety assurance of increasingly autonomous AI systems in dynamic and uncertain contexts building on methods and concepts in disciplines spanning AI, safety science, philosophy, law, and the social sciences. And for those who are at the moment preparing their application, this statement is very, very important for you because it's key in your application to relate what you are interested in and your ethos to the way we're presenting ourselves in terms of our commitment to collaboration and people working together, as well as to two themes which we'll tell you a little bit more about, which are lifelong safety assurance and the notion of autonomy. And here, my colleague Helen Poyer was very kind to share with all of you some recommended readings, which I can't stress how important for you to engage with that literature and shape your application around how we regard AI safety. So don't rely too much on the public discussion of AI safety, which hits different directions. Engage a little bit with the academic literature there, especially the ones we contributed to in framing your application. And our brilliant science students will say a little bit more on this. The last thing to say before handing over to my colleague, Tom Stoneham, to say more about training is that within SAINS, our Center for Doctoral Training, we're fortunate that our students are physically co-located within our Institute for Safe Autonomy. So there we have brilliant labs for experimentation, as well as collaborative spaces for meetings, as well as working groups and the like. And all what you need to do is to Google York and see how fortunate we are to be living in this beautiful city. And as you can imagine, this sky is always blue with a little bit of cloud typically here. And for those of you who say, well, beautiful cities are fine, but can we go somewhere else as well? We've just come back from a trip to Jaguar Land Rover. So this is a fresh photo where some of our students are next to a latest Defender there, where we had discussions with our colleagues at Jaguar Land Rover, who's a main partner, about the challenges, safety challenges of deploying AI increasingly in the automotive industry. So you'll end up living in this beautiful city, as well as hopefully collaborating with the best in the AI industry. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to Tom Stoneham to tell us more about training. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about the training program and why we're telling you about that now. So first of all, you will have seen from Ibrahim's slides this complicated diagram, which is a big overview of the total program that we're doing here. And you can see there's lots of different parts in this. There are cohort events, there are training events, there are courses, and of course, regular seminars and your own research. So I want to kind of explain a few of the principles around this. So one of the things is, as Ibrahim said, we regard this as a multidisciplinary program. That means that we're recruiting in lots of disciplines, but we think there's something much more important about multidisciplinarity than just having lots of people from different disciplines. It requires that awareness of other disciplines and also how your own discipline is understood by those other disciplines. We also very strongly believe in teamwork. You can't have multidisciplinarity without teams, without multidisciplinary teams. And we think that teamwork involves appreciating your own strengths, but also your own weaknesses, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you need other people, the gaps you need other people to fill in. We also believe that learning requires teaching, that you can't understand something unless you're also able to explain what you do understand to a non-expert. In practice, what this means is that we expect you to pass every talk course, and I'll go through all of those in a few minutes. So you have a lot of talk courses you have to do, and you have to pass all of them, however far they are from your home discipline. But that means that on some courses, you'll be the expert. This will all be very familiar to you, and you'll be working with other postgraduates, researchers, for whom it's completely new. But in other courses, it'll be completely new to you, and you'll be working with people for whom it's an expert. So you get that experience of both being the expert and the beginner. And the other thing we build into a lot of our talk courses is group assessment. So we'll put you into groups from different disciplines with a single assessment task that you have to produce as a group. So what are the courses? Well, we do have a pre-sessional course, which some basic Python and the key maths concepts you're going to need for the machine learning courses. That's not required if you're already able to do those things, but it's highly recommended for people from non-technical disciplines, and we provide extra support for you to turn up early to do that. There are then 5 main courses that you need to do. There are 2 AI courses, AI 1, just foundations of AI, the key learning, and AI 2, which comes later in the year, on reliability, trustworthiness, and safety. There are 2 safe AI courses. So these are the safety science courses. The first one taught by Ibrahim, who's here today, on system safety for AI systems, and the second one on actually developing safe AI systems, taught by my colleague Colin Patterson. And then there is a course, Law, Ethics and Society, which is actually broken into 3 separate blocks, one on law, one on ethics, and one on society, which are taught over separate periods. So these are all your required talk courses, and as I say, you have to pass all of those. We also have 2 seminar series running throughout the year and throughout each year. One is professional and academic development. This might be some highly practical things about doing literature surveys or grant applications or literature reviews, or it might be more general soft skills. And we also run a seminar series on responsible AI and responsible research and innovation. There's an attendance requirement at both those seminar series. There are a few particular ones which are mandatory, and then there's an overall attendance requirement across the year. So there's a lot going on apart from just your research, and that's our core training program. Those 5 talk courses are completed by May. The seminars run through the whole of the academic year. On top of that, there's personalized training. You may have particular training needs of your own. These can be career development needs, they could be technical training needs, and you have a personal budget for that called a research training and support grant. And you can use this to attend courses, to attend conferences, to do whatever is needed for you to get up to the right level of skills and knowledge for your research. We also run a large number of cohort events. We have research showcases. We have hackathons. I can perhaps later in the discussion talk about the last hackathon we did, a conference which we're doing this September, and you have secondments and academic exchanges that you take up during the course of your program. In determining our training, we have student representation on the leadership group. We listen very hard to your feedback, and we try to adapt the training in such a way that it meets your needs and it meets the emerging challenges within the area of AI safety. So I'm going to stop there and pass on.
My role in Saints, my name is Jo Jacobides, and I am one of the research co-leads for Saints. You'll be hearing from my other co-lead, Laura, later on after my presentation. But my job is to give you an overview of how research is going to work within Saints. So within Saints, we have these 2 high-level themes that we want our PhD students to represent in terms of their actual projects. So the first relates to this focus on lifelong safety of AI systems. So as we are seeing AI increasingly being deployed into the world, it's not good enough to just say it's safe before deployment. We need to look at how safety assurance is weaved into, those early stages all the way through to after these systems and technologies are being deployed, which is increasingly important in the sort of more open and dynamic context in which we're expecting these systems to be operating within. So that's one of the themes. The second theme relates to the safety of increasingly autonomous AI systems. So this is really about, due to the increases of how we are transferring decisions between not just human operators and AI operators, but between multiple forms of these, then actually we need to think more about how we can do this in a safe way, and how we can support human autonomy as part of that, as well as the autonomy on the AI side as well. So your research, when you're writing your proposals, needs to align with one of these themes. It doesn't have to align to both. It's fine if it picks one. In fact, we recommend that you try and stick it closely to one of those. But the other thing we expect to see in all the research that we do is this kind of ethos of responsible research and innovation. So that's going to be embedded throughout the program, whether it's the talk components that Tom was just speaking to you about, and your own research, but also all forms of engagement with a wider community, including partners as well. So in terms of how supervision is going to work on Saints, we obviously expect all projects within the Saints CDT to have an emphasis on not just AI, but safety in particular. And unlike other programs, we're actually going to allocate supervisors after you have completed that talk component that's just been described to you. So the reason we do this is that we want to give you time to focus on those talk components, but also for those talk components to help you think more about the research you want to do and how to conduct that within the context of Saints as well. So it gives you space to develop those ideas. And then later on in the first year, we'll go through a matching process with supervisors to make sure you've got an appropriate supervisory team in place. And of course, us as the Saints team will support you in that process of refining your ideas and thinking about who will be a suitable supervisor. In terms of the supervisory teams themselves, these are going to consist of a primary supervisor who is going to be a domain expert from your home discipline. So they will be closely aligned to the work that you want to do, and reflect your kind of background that you're bringing to Saints as well. And the idea is we will allocate this primary supervisor first, based on your research interests and a sort of outline proposal that we'll ask from you in the first year. And then after that, we'll think about who a suitable additional supervisor would be. And this will come most likely from a different discipline or sub-discipline within Saints. And the idea is to support that multidisciplinary ways of working that we're very keen to ensure occurs within this CDT. And you may also have a CDT partner that is part of your supervisory team. But this will happen obviously later on when you've got a clearer idea of what your research interests and plans are. So within Saints, we also have an emphasis on this sort of community building. And one of the ways we're going to do this is through a series of quarterly workshops. So we're going to run those every year. And that's going to involve the PGRs, so from the different cohorts, but also their supervisors. And we're going to invite partners to that, and potentially members of a public involvement panel as well. And the idea is that these workshops gives the students that we have an opportunity to not only share their progress, but to receive feedback, so to develop their ideas further based on conversations with the community, and having that kind of wider discussion within that multidisciplinary environment as well. And the idea is that this work will then be better placed to contribute to and those research challenges I outlined earlier, and to kind of shape the research directions of the CDT. And as mentioned earlier, we have an emphasis on a range of different events. So these are some photos from the hackathon that we organised earlier this year with our first cohort. So there's events like that. We've also got a reading group that was partly inspired by a request from the student community as well. And there'll be other events and things that we're happy to run throughout the life of the CDT. And we're very open to suggestions from our Saints students about how to do that and what kind of events you'd like to see. So that covers research. I'd like to hand over now to Laura Fernley, who's going to talk to you more about the application process.
Thanks, Joe. As Joe said, my name's Laura. I'm research co-lead with Joe, and here is an overview of the application process. So the application process is 2 stages. Stage 1 consists of an application form and an expression of interest. So the application form will include personal details, qualifications, your work experience, etc. The usual stuff that you would put in when you're applying for a job or a PhD program. We're also asking you to upload an expression of interest, and this consists in a research statement and a personal statement. So the research statement should outline your initial research interest and your ideas and how these relate to the topic of AI safety. So to stress, we are not looking for a fully fledged research proposal at this stage. We're just looking for a statement of research. So what your initial ideas are and how these relate to Saints themes, and in particular, the 2 research themes that Joe outlined before. In the personal statement, we want you to outline your academic background, any professional or voluntary experience you have that might be relevant, and in particular, why you're applying for Saints. So why Saints as opposed to a traditional PhD program or another CDD program? The research statement is 1,000 words. The statement, your personal statement should be 500 words. And if you're successful at this stage, you'll be invited to stage 2, which is a group selection event, which will include a group activity and a traditional panel interview. Helen will send out details of the group selection event closer to the time. You'll either do this in person at York on the 11th of February, or it'll be online if you're an international candidate on the 12th of February. I'm just going to say something briefly about the assessment criteria, so how we assess your expression of interest. So recall this is the research statement and the personal statement. And we assess these according to 3 categories. So the first category is research. We look at the relevance of the research, how does it relate to Saints, and in particular the research topics, the 2 research strands. The novelty of the research is, are you proposing an original piece of research? Is this research significant, or can it demonstrate some potential for impact? And is the stuff that you're outlining, could we shape it into a feasible PhD project? And again, it's important to stress, because we're not asking for a fully fledged research proposal at this stage, here we're just looking at whether it has the potential to do these things. So is the kind of your research ideas, can you sit down with a supervisor and can we see some kind of ambitious PhD project forming out of these initial ideas? The next category is collaboration. So as Tom mentioned, AI safety we see as an interdisciplinary subject. So we want to know that you understand this by discussing how other people's skills might relate to your own research. So for example, if you're a philosopher, you might understand that it's important to talk to computer scientists about the technical aspects of AI systems in order to inform your own research, say on the ethics of AI systems. We also want to understand how you can contribute to the AI community here. So what skills can you bring that others can utilize in their own research? And then finally, we're going to assess your skills. So what skills and experience can you bring to the Saints program? And can you demonstrate this through examples? So have you have a previous research project or a previous work project where you've used some skills and taken other people's skills and what you found particularly valuable in that kind of experience? And then finally, I want to say something about subject fit. So there's quite a few questions on this. So you should be able to undertake doctoral research within Saints' key academic disciplines. These are computer science, health sciences, law, philosophy, and sociology. So your PhD will fit into one of these categories. However, this does not entail that your experience should be exclusively rooted within these disciplines. For example, you might be a psychologist who thinks they can do a PhD in philosophy, who has the relevant skills and experience. You might be a mathematician who can do a computer science degree. For example, one of our cohort students in cohort 2 is speaking in the moment. She has an undergraduate degree in maths and is doing a sociology PhD because she's taking the relevant modules along the way to be able to form out some kind of PhD in sociology. So it's not necessary that you're kind of career progression before this has taken a linear route up until that subject. Finally, an in-depth technical knowledge of AI systems is not necessary for the program, although it is desirable. As Tom said, if you don't have any technical knowledge, you'll be doing some kind of boot camp at the start to get everyone up to the kind of relevant base level. Okay, I'm going to pass you back to Joe, who's going to talk a bit more about what kind of candidates we're looking for in the Saints program.
Thanks, Laura. So yeah, so in terms of what we're kind of looking for here, that there's the obvious kind of, you know, degree requirements that's all listed on the website, and we certainly expect people to have a degree of some kind, but we are open to people who've perhaps had a less traditional route through their careers and are now looking to do a PhD. We sometimes get asked whether people need to have publications before they apply to Saints, and that's definitely not a requirement. If you have one, that's great. But we're certainly open to people who've not been able to do that as well. We certainly don't expect it. As Laura's pointed out, we're interested in a range of different backgrounds and skills. And essentially, what we want you to do in your applications to show how your skills are relevant to not just Saints as a CDT, but also to the research that you think you're interested in carrying out. So that's the key thing here. Whatever your background is, to talk about how you think this fits within the Saints remit, and why that combination of skills will be useful for you as you progress and doing your own kind of research as well. And just to kind of highlight, in case it's not clear already, but absolutely one of the essential things we're looking for here is an interest not just in AI, but in AI and safety. So that's really core to what we're looking for in terms of your applications here. So make sure that does come through very clearly. So it's a very quick summary. I'm sure there's time for questions, but before that, we're going to pass you on to two of our students from our most recent cohort. So Deepa and Madeline are going to give you some top tips for your applications. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me. I'll start off. My name is Deepa. My bachelor's was in maths and applied maths and education, and then I did a master's in maths. At that point, I realized that I was just much more interested in social questions. And so I'm in the sociology pathway in Saints. So yeah, just like Laura pointed out, I think if you are able to demonstrate that you're passionate about that discipline and that you have done preparation and you will as well in the PhD, you can definitely switch over. It really just shows that you're very interdisciplinary. I would say when preparing for the application, definitely focusing on the interdisciplinary side of yourself. Think about if you've done any volunteering. I was involved also in like the philosophy society when I was doing my undergraduate. I had also done, I had research experience in science education, which is really sociology. So in that way, even though I have formal training in maths, I was able to show that I have developed skills in sociology. I'm passionate about it. And in my research statement, then I was talking about sociological questions. Also for preparing for the application, I would say read the papers that you've been recommended. There's a lot of them there. I think for our year, there was like 20 papers. I wouldn't say you have to do all of that, but I think I read about 6, 7 papers, and I wasn't mentioning them like too outwardly in the statement of interest, but it really helped me form the idea of what the research on safe AI in Saints is like, and sort of informed the research statement, the statement of interest. Lastly, I would say take this time to concentrate on what you love, really what you're passionate about. And one way that I kind of figured that out, I was talking to a friend one day and they were saying, if you spent all day doing your PhD thinking about a question, and when you get home, you're still interested in thinking about that, you really have something there. But you'll have time to really hone that in, but to have some sense of what that is in your statement of interest. So I'll pass that on to Madeline now.
Hello, I'm Madeline. I did my bachelor's here in York in computer science, and I came straight into the PhD. My top tip would be to think about your motivation at every level. You're going to be applying for your individual place, so your individual research that's going to be within a cohort that's very collaborative, very multidisciplinary, and then also within the building, the institute, and then at York on a wider level, which has a long history of safety research. So just take time. You might not know everything off the top of your head before you write it. So it's fine, take some time to think about your research before you write it. And I say off the back of what Deba was saying, if you've ever done any presenting, any communication, any volunteering, I still do some conservation volunteering. It doesn't have to be to do with science or anything, or your degree, just something that you've worked with other people, you can teach people, you can learn at the same time. Be really important. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So my name's Helen Poyer. I'm the CDT manager for the Saints CDT. And thank you very much for attending, and thank you for all the questions that you submitted in advance of the webinar. I think that we've probably covered answering most of them in the presentations that we've done so far. And we've also had a few questions on the Q&A, which we'll go through. But if you feel like your question hasn't been answered already, then feel free to put it on the Q&A. So I'm just going to start going through some. So we've had a query about whether this course will be available for students who cannot move to live in York, so can you study from home and commute. We've also had a query about how many days, hours a week do part-time students need to be on campus and in sessions. So Tom, would you be able to give an overview of both of those, please?
Yeah, so the thing to say is there is an on-campus requirement with this PhD. It is not available by distance learning. So there will be quite regular requirements to be in York quite regularly. Those are compatible with some forms of commuting. That really depends upon you. The talk courses I mentioned are all delivered over 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and between 9 and 5. So for those courses, you will have to be in York for 3 consecutive days, and they usually have an assessment day the following week when you'll also have to be in York. So if your envisaged commuting meant that you couldn't be in York for 3 consecutive days, or how you're arranging your part-time work, then that would be problematic. More generally, though, there are lots of other points where you're expected to be here. As I said, we have the professional academic development and the RAI seminars running regularly. Those are on Monday afternoons. And we have several other events, such as workshops and conferences, where you're expected to be here. So, and these are unmissable. So you need to have the flexibility in your living arrangements to be here when we need you here. And that's the main constraint. We find in practice that at least during the first year, Saints students need to have somewhere, a base in York, whether that's temporary or not. After that, it's a bit easier to commute, but it's still quite a lot of travel if you're doing a long commute. So hopefully that answers those 3 questions. I don't know if Ibrahim wants to correct me on any points.
No, that would be my answer as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I'm just going to go down to the bottom of the Q&A because I know Deba has to leave us soon for another meeting. One of our attendees has said thank you very much for your reflections, both of you, and wants to know, how did you find the group task at interview stage? Was it very challenging, or did you find it enjoyable?
I really loved it. It was really fun. It was they calmed you down. It was great. We had a good time. It wasn't too stressful. It was a timed assessment. I won't give away about the task. But how did you find it?
Yeah, I found it nice as well. I think that like it's important when you're working in a group that you give your own inputs, but you make sure that you're listening to other people. And I learned a lot actually, like about when other people were saying things in the group assessment. I'll also say I came over from Ireland, and the university does help you with accommodation. Um, I think I mean, I don't want to say the specifics for the, policy, but I was here the night before and I was able to get compensated for the in-person interview. So I'd say that's a very good idea if you do it in person, and you will get compensated.
Yeah, it's good to be in a room. We had 2 computer scientists, a lawyer, and someone who did electrical engineering.
I don't remember everybody. There was law, there was medical
really
in my
interesting.
group, there was computer science, but I don't remember everyone's, but yeah.
Different point of views. But yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
Super, thank you. Okay, so we've got a question about topics, which I think, Ibrahim, you can hopefully answer. So would topics in interpretability and AI alignment, e.e. COT monitoring, SAE, sorry, I'm not sure what they are, would they fall within the scope of Saints?
Yeah, so maybe you're lucky that I'm answering this question, not another colleague. Yes. So the answer is at some level of abstraction, yes. So questions of interpretability or explainability, they're all relevant to safety as well as AI alignment. But the issue here is in explaining what you mean by those terms and how you bring them to the notion of AI safety, how they relate to specific kinds of harms, as well as you can expand further in terms of how you link them to the notion of risk, harm, and other things. However, if you the applicant, if you describe these purely in their technical elements without any clear links to AI safety and safety, then these wouldn't count. So they're just the pure technical development of those notions wouldn't fall within the scope of AI safety as we see it. That's why we're saying it would be good to have a look at the recommended readings we have, which can help you more understand where we come from. And then you have, if you like, the task of bringing the two perspectives together.
Thanks, Ibrahim. Just to point out that I will email around the link to the recommended reading to attendees after this. Okay. Got a question about, it was mentioned that applicants must have an interest in AI safety specifically. Do you also expect applicants to already have demonstrable experience in AI safety, e.g. through Blue Dot courses?
I can take this one. Oh, sorry, Tom. Yeah, I was just going to say that definitely have to have an interest. You don't have to have a demonstrable background in AI safety. If you do, that's great, and you think it's relevant, then please do include that in your application. But you don't have to have been working in that area or studying that area in order to apply.
Can I just add, as the philosopher in the room, yeah. So people from non-science backgrounds, the way they might demonstrate an interest in AI safety will be through an understanding of what the issues are, what the constraints on solutions are. So just some sense that you've looked into this, you've thought about it, and you're not just watching science fiction or whatever, that you've actually got some grip on what these are as real world problems.
I'd even say for a technical background, that's important. So you understand what AI safety actually means in this context would be helpful, but you don't necessarily have to have had previous experience of doing work in that specific domain.
And just related, someone's asked, what do you see as the most important quality or qualification for someone about to start a Saints PhD, particularly in AI safety?
I'm happy to go for that one. I think I don't think there's no best qualification. I think for the Saints CDT program is the right thing to say. you should show that your background and experience is relevant to Saints and weave that thread. But there's no one qualification that's better than any other qualification. The most important quality probably is an interest in AI safety at the moment, right? Which is why it's very important to read the literature about what we take AI safety to be and make sure that your interest aligns with how Saints is thinking about AI safety. Yes, anyone else want to?
I might just add, Ibrahim, do you want to?
Thank you. I think just to add to this, it's because we are looking into people who are deeply interested in research. It's good to give us some insights onto your own thinking of AI safety, and that's why it's very hard for us to prescribe disciplines or exact thoughts, because we would like to be pleasantly surprised throughout the process. Yeah, and that's a good sign in its own right. So given how competitive the process is, I think if some of you would like to take risk in how to develop the applications, that's again something which we don't constrain.
Thank you.
I was just going to add to that. It's really important that you have a curiosity and a real interest in just finding out about this stuff. You know, finding out. You don't yet know whether it's going to be relevant, but you just want to find out. And again, with the training program, we're expecting people from different backgrounds, academic backgrounds, to find out about the other backgrounds. And I say, particularly to the non-technical people, you need to have a real interest in some of the details of the technical stuff, not how to do it, but you need to want to play with the toys. And I think that's quite an important element. But similarly, from the technical backgrounds, you need to have an interest in some of the broader issues.
Excellent. Another question. I'm an international student currently at York. Most of my volunteering and leadership experience comes from outside of the UK. Will that add value, or should I focus more on what I'm currently doing in the UK? Anyone want to answer that?
So I think that if your experience is relevant to what we're looking for in your application, then it doesn't matter whether it's UK or international. So I think if you can talk about the skills that you're bringing to Saints, it doesn't matter where that experience has come from, as long as you can make those kind of connections. So do have a look at the criteria. So the criteria Laura talked about during her 5 minutes are on the website as well. So have a think about what you think best shows evidence that you're meeting those different criteria from your experience, no matter where that experience has come from.
Yeah. We've got a couple of questions which are specifically about, again, subject topics. So academic backgrounds in economics, and now working within the NHS as a nursing assistant. And another query about is the course suitable for nurses? And
so as we've said before, I think that the key thing here is, yes, potentially, but you have to kind of in your application talk about why you think it's relevant to the CDT and its focus on AI safety, and how you think the skills and understanding you've gained from your prior experience will be useful for the research you want to engage in as part of Saints. So we are very open to lots of different disciplines, as long as you can show that relevance to the program and your own research.
And just to add a little bit to Joe's answer, if you look at, again, the composition of the Saints leadership team, you'll notice just on that specific question that our colleague, Cynthia Iglesias, she is a health economist. So already you can see like signs of those areas as of interest to us. So that, again, that's for that particular applicant, it might be good to look further into how we address the question of AI from a health economics point of view.
Okay, thank you. Got another one, which is if an applicant already has research experience working as an RA and research fellow, is this experience accountable for application assessment? sorry, I don't quite understand. On the mandatory requirements for English assessment, if they've already got, so if you've already been taught in English, I think that's what this question is asking. So, Laura, could you answer the question about research experience working as an RA and research fellow, please?
Yeah, sure. I guess it depends what research experience it is and whether you can weave a narrative such that it's relevant to Saints. So I guess the short answer is yes, depending on the experience. If it's experience to do with AI systems or safety, or perhaps it's, experience within a healthcare setting that you can demonstrate is relevant for the topic that you'd like to do for a PhD, then absolutely it's relevant, is the short answer. Depends what it is.
Thanks, Laura. The English language requirements. So if your previous education has been instructed in English, then probably likely you wouldn't need to provide any other proof of your English language skills, but this is something which our postgraduate admissions department would assess when you, if you were successful for funding, we'd then ask you to formally apply for the PhD in safe AI, and that's when your language, skills would be just checked by the postgraduate admissions team. Okay. So another question, are applicants encouraged to read the latest publications of potential supervisors in Saints and reach out with questions or follow-up ideas? Would it still be appropriate to do so if those supervisors are part of the selection committee? So that's a good question. Who would like to take that?
I mean, I can say a word. It doesn't hurt, but you're asking, if you're contacting someone, you're asking for their time, and the way we, as Joe explained, we don't assign supervisors until 4 or 5 months into the program. So it gives you no competitive advantage to have tried to charm a supervisor. On the other hand, you need to know who's at your, if you want to come spend 4 years of your life here, you need to know who the people are and what they do and make sure that you're interested in that. So it's in your personal interest more than in your strategic application interest. I think that's fair, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. I think certainly having a read is a good idea if there's particular lines of work that you're interested in and think you might want to do some work building on or adjacent to. I think that's probably a good idea. It is okay to ask other people for feedback on your application things. I think if we are a member of the Saints organising committee, I don't think we are allowed to give you feedback on your direct application. I think that's something, correct me if I'm wrong there, Ibrahim. Tom's nodding. Yeah, I think we have to be careful on not giving students a particular advantage as we're part of the selection process there. But certainly reading around and thinking and having a look at the kind of work that different people at York are doing and thinking about whether that fits in with the work that you're interested in doing is a useful activity. But as I have pointed out, the allocation of supervisors comes later anyway. So if you say, oh, but I found a great supervisor I want to work with, we're still going to have a think about whether they're actually the best supervisor for you if you do get a position in the CDT. So we can't promise anything on that respect either.
Thanks, Joe. Got a question about the focus of Saints. So from a legal standpoint, does Saints focus more on a UK law jurisdiction, or would it encompass a worldwide view on AI safety spanning multiple legal jurisdictions? Ibrahim, do you want to take that or anyone else?
Yeah, unfortunately, our law lead, Philip Morgan, is not around. He specializes in private law, but we're not on liability, questions of liability, but we're not constrained by that to the best of my knowledge. So it's part of the application to explain, the jurisdiction of interest. And it might be worth having a look at academics and the lines of research within our law school to give you, again, some idea of available supervision capacity. If you, for example, identify that, or you couldn't identify an obvious supervisor, just get in touch if you're in doubt, and we can try our best to answer your specific question here. But the answer is that we're not constrained by one particular jurisdiction.
Thanks, Ibrahim. Next question: How do you see our research to happen with Saints impactful? How do these research areas differ in directions from AI safety research programs like Laser, Pivotal, or MATS? I guess how can our research make an impact, I guess?
Okay, I can make a start, and then Laura
Thank you.
can add to this. I think my answer here hinges on the kinds of partners we have, as well as the safety we already provided. So unlike the general discussion of AI safety, where it centers on what we call AI out of context, AI as an idea, as if it's not a real thing which is impacting us anyway. So we're interested in AI systems when incorporated into complex technological and social structures, and this gives AI its true meaning in terms of its actual impact. And our work is impactful in the evidence that we're keen to produce with our partner, which can inform the debate and inform policy and practice in that regard. So in that way, we can see our work impactful in terms of its output, as well as the main impact that we hope we will make is through our graduates, who will go and just basically implement the research and advance it further within industry and policy. And that's why, for example, I know this is a separate point, and we've done some experiments with that. If someone were to take the questions we have in the guidance and feed it into, for example, an LLM, you get bland answers, which are easy to spot that they're not genuine. So in that respect, these are the different ways in which you could address this issue. I know I'm distracting you from the answer, but I don't know whether Laura and Joe can bring me back to the question.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, one avenue for impact through Saints in particular is through our partners. So Saints is very lucky that we have a very rich plethora of partners from industry up until policy, and you'll have the opportunity for a kind of secondment where you might work with some of our partners, which is unique to the Saints CDT. So you might work with, say, Jaguar Land Rover or the Alan Turing Institute or something like that. This is a great pathway to impact. But apart from our partners, there are the traditional routes you might want to go down. So some of our cohort do outreach stuff for the public. That's a great way to share the personal research, kind of spread the impact wider than the academy. We've got conferences, those traditional routes. We encourage you all to go to conferences. We have our own showcases and hackathons, and these are all traditional ways that you might do impact as well as partners. We're also, one thing to add, we also use public input in some of the cohort as well, which is a great way to have impact. So we'll take public opinion that might shape some of our research, but also use the public to kind of spread the research as well.
Thanks. Sorry, the only thing I'd add to that is just the second part of the question, which I think was how are we different to those other safety research programs? And as far as I understand it, those are all short-term programs that last, a few weeks or a couple of months, whereas Saints is a much bigger. Doing a PhD is 4 years of your life, right, that you'll be focusing on these things. So there's much more opportunity to think about impact through that kind of program of work that you're going to be doing over those 3.5 years if you're doing the teaching part for the first part of the program there. So, thanks.
Could I add a word on that as well? So a lot of other work done around AI safety is about technical standards for testing systems, and these have been put together fast on the basis because things are emerging fast. And a lot of the Saints' approach to safety is about being able to think the difficult questions about what are appropriate standards, what are appropriate methods here. And as we've often commented, we've got a very much Ibrahim has mentioned, we're interested in not in an AI system as a technical tool, but as something that's embedded in a deployment and in a wider context. And we're also interested, that also naturally brings interests around to the socio-technical and how it impacts more broadly through those particular deployments. So it is a distinctive approach to safety from a lot of the things that are being done by the AI Safety Institute or whatever at the moment, which are just a matter of benchmarking against things that you can currently measure. And I think what you'll find is we try to take on a big picture, and it's a 4-year program, as Joe said, so there's plenty of time to do that.
Thank you. I've had someone ask about career expectations. What could the realistic career expectations be after Saints, both in academia and industry? Anyone want to take that?
I can make a thought, but maybe Madeline could add to this if in case her views have changed since she started. So we know from, if you look at least just the statistics around AI graduates, PhD graduates, and people working in this area, that around 80% of graduates will go to industry, policy, and third sector. So and therefore, as part of our commitment to training our PhD students, we have this in mind. We're not just graduating future academics. Hence the structure of the training itself, secondments, and other things. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis on professional and academic development as part of preparing you to do things, to career choices that you've already had in mind, but also potentially offering new options that you might have not considered. So, and therefore, we are aware that some applicants will start off, for example, with an interest in working in industry, might finish with an interest working in policy, for example, and that's a good thing. It's part of the journey.
Yeah, my idea's already changed. So from when I started applying to now, and I think it changes a lot after I keep learning more. But I think roughly for me, I'd like to work more in industry and then come back to academia. But everyone in a cohort has different opinions, different backgrounds, different work experience. So it all matters, it all counts, and just take what's personal to you, and also be open to it changing as you do more courses and meet new people that have done different things before the PhD.
Thank you. We do have a question on the Q&A, which is a bit specific to the legal aspect of Saints. So would you mind please emailing that to us, saints-cdt@york.ac.uk, and we can liaise with our law lead to respond to that one, please. Okay, we've got time for this last question, which is, what is the mission of Saints? What do you see in candidates that align with this mission? Ibrahim, do you want to do that?
Yeah, so it's again, it's a good question, but we can answer it in different ways. So our stated mission or vision is what I explained from the start, which is to train and graduate the next generation of AI safety researchers, policymakers, engineers, and as well as produce evidence that will inform and drive the debate and actual work in the area of AI safety. So that's our mission, that's our vision, and it has two elements: the actual impact that we're keen to make, which is make systems safer for everyone, not just a select few, The other aspect of our mission is not just what we do, but how we do it. So we are committed to questions of being inclusive as well as diverse, because that's the right thing to do, but also to play our role as academics and educators in informed debate, where some of those qualities are being undermined in the public debate. So all of those fall under our wider remit of Saints.
Thank you. We've got about a minute left. Does anyone have any final last wise words? Ibrahim, do you want to close?
I think all what I could say is thank you for your time. And I hope this webinar has been useful, and I hope you have a chance to have a look at our work, the recommended paper, and take your time and at looking at developing your application, and find some critical friends who can advise you on your application as well. And yeah, good luck.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to your application.